On November 10, 2022, a group of fishermen were at work in the port of Huo, a city in the Lima region of Peru. Amidst their routine, they were drawn to the gathering of scavenger birds nearby. Intrigued, they decided to investigate. What they stumbled upon was nothing short of horrifying: a detached finger in the sand still adorned with a silver ring. The unsettling finds didn't stop there. Scattered in the vicinity were further remains, stripped of its internal organs. Seemingly with intent, this case almost defies comprehension. A series of gruesome discoveries in Peru revealed a dark underbelly of human trafficking and the lengths people will go to fulfill this grisly demand. Blanca, a woman who went into the digital realm in search of love, instead found herself ensnared in a real-life nightmare. It's brutal. But before we dive in, I want to let you know that I make videos weekly, so if you want to see my next one, please drop the video a like and subscribe. If you are new, it really helps me out. Thank you, Blanca Arellano. Gutierrez was a 51-year-old single woman residing in Mexico City. She was a big part of her family, and she shared an exceptionally close bond with her niece, Carla Arellano. The two maintained a friendship that went beyond mere familial ties, always finding ways to connect and enrich each other's lives, although not much is known about Blanca's life. Her Facebook account offered a glimpse into her interests. She had a law degree, and her profile indicated that she also pursued studies in tourism. Cycling and exercise were listed among her hobbies, but it was online gaming that truly captured her social attention. When the 2020 pandemic ushered in an era of isolation, Blanca found herself increasingly alone within the confines of her home, seeking to fill her hours and perhaps a sense of community. She turned to Fortnite, a game that not only enjoyed widespread popularity, but had also seen a surge in engagement. During the lockdowns, it was a virtual world that Blanca began to explore and introduced new people into her life, unaware that this choice would ultimately lead her into unforeseen dangers. Blanca's foray into the world of Fortnite led her to Juan Pablo Vu Pinto, a 37-year-old Peruvian man. What began as in-game interactions soon evolved into a deeper connection. The two transitioned from casual conversations during gameplay to more personal exchanges. They swapped contact details and soon found themselves engrossed in daily conversations on platforms like Discord and Facebook. Their friendship deepened considerably on the social media landscape. Juan Pablo managed a Facebook page named Juan Vu Med, where he identified himself as a modern vintage gamer. Intrigued by the term, Blanca became an active member of his online community. She too was admin in another Facebook group named Wagos Retro, focusing on retro games. Juan Pablo joined this group under his online alias. Evidence of their close relationship was publicly documented. Pablo uploaded a video on February 6, 2021 on his One Villa page specifically to celebrate Blanca's 50th birthday. In this heartfelt tribute, he affectionately referred to her as Blanquita. Other loving interactions were clear to see on each other's profiles. Their interactions on these platforms revealed a budding relationship, though no one could anticipate the darker turns their connection would soon take. Blanca and Juan Pablo's bond soon escalated into a virtual romantic relationship. Blanca confided in her niece Carla, expressing just how much she was in love with Juan, and her desire to not just be emotionally with him but also physically. Living in Mexico City, while Juan resided in Peru, presented an obvious challenge. But the emotional attachment they developed over the 2 years seemed too precious to abandon. In January 2022, the couple had initially planned for Juan to visit Blanca in Mexico, but the plan ultimately fell through for undisclosed reasons. Months later, driven by a potent mixture of love and impatience, Blanca decided to take matters into her own hands. Financial constraints were a concern. Blanca was not in the most secure financial state. Nevertheless, she was prepared to make sacrifices for love to fund her trip to Peru. Blanca sold off almost all of her possessions, including her car, which was integral to her work, her cherished bicycle, and various other items on July 22, 2022. Armed with the money she got from selling her life's belongings, Blanca embarked on her journey to Peru, ready to uproot her life for the man she loved. She was willing to do whatever it took to make this relationship work, oblivious to the grave risks this decision entailed. Blanca touched down at J. Havs Airport in Peru, capital, at 2:45 a.m. on Tuesday the 28th of July. Over the ensuing days, when Pablo played the consummate host, whisking her to iconic tourist spots and breathtaking locations throughout this whirlwind romantic escapade, Blanca maintained regular contact with her niece Carla, filling her in on the details of her days. Everything seemed idyllic. "I'm so happy," she said, praising one's kindness, wit, and affection. He was everything she had fantasized about her dream. Man-made real one reciprocated her affection with generous gifts and took her on a variety of romantic outings. Blanca was clearly smitten. Her online presence also remained active with her latest live video game stream, posted on November 6th. The initial joy of Blanca's move to Peru was short-lived and tinged with elements that puzzled her family. Blanca had mentioned purchasing a Peruvian mobile phone to stay in contact with Juan while he was away for his studies. Yet, strangely, she never shared the number with her relatives on Monday, November 7th. There was an unsettling silence. She didn't send any messages, didn't make any calls, and was suspiciously absent from her social networks. For someone as attached to her phone as Blainer, this behavior raised immediate red flags. With her family growing increasingly concerned, her family tried to communicate. Her niece Carla sent a message to Juan on Facebook anxiously, seeking any information about her aunt's sudden and inexplicable disappearance. But the answer they got back was not what they had expected. Juan's response only deepened the family's worries. He claimed that he hadn't heard from Blanca in days, suggesting that she had left him due to dissatisfaction with their life together. According to Juan, Blanca had grown bored and decided to head back to Mexico, making her way to Lima for a departing flight. He ventured a guess that Blanca's phone might have run out of battery, accounting for her lack of communication, while his words carried a note of sadness and resignation. They also left an unsettling gap. The story didn't completely align with Blanca's past communications, where she had expressed consistent happiness and satisfaction. With Juan in their relationship, Carla and the rest of the family were left with more questions than answers, their concerns intensifying with each passing moment of silence from Blanca. Sirens bled in Carla's mind. She chose to publicize her growing concerns, taking to Twitter to mobilize a search for her missing aunt. She not only issued a plea for help, but also outlined the narrative of Blanca's move to Peru to live with Juan, implying he was the last person known to have seen her. It was a thinly veiled accusation pointing to Juan as potentially knowing more than he was letting on. The social media plea gained traction. Rapidly prompted by the online outcry, the family officially filed a missing person report. At this time, the Peruvian police had little to act upon. Blanca was an adult, and there was no concrete evidence to suggest that a crime had even taken place. She had traveled to Peru willingly and without signs of coercion or foul play. The authorities had limited avenues for immediate action. However, the landscape of the investigation took a sudden and dramatic turn just 2 days later, altering the course of events in a way that nobody could have anticipated on November 10th. Just 3 days into the official search for Blanca, local authorities received a deeply unsettling call that would change the trajectory of the investigation. Fishermen along Ong, the shore of Hoo Beach, had stumbled upon a grisly scene. Human remains were scattered along the sand, starting with a severed finger and followed by an arm and a head scavenger. Birds had already begun their grim feast. Authorities were quick to respond. Police secured the area and forensic experts conducted their meticulous examinations. The condition of the remains suggested a deliberate effort to prevent identification. The face and fingertips had been skillfully dissected despite the challenges posed by this gruesome act. Experts were able to determine 3 key factors. First, the remains belonged to a woman estimated to be in her 40s. Second, her fingerprints were not in RNIAC records, Peru's National Identification Registry, indicating that she was likely a foreign citizen. Though the remains could not be positively identified on the spot, the evidence led many, including the investigators, to speculate, could these remains belong to Blanca? Had her journey for love ended in this horrific manner, and if so, what role, if any, had Juan played in this dreadful outcome? The third key discovery of a silver ring on one of the severed fingers immediately drew investigators' attention. This detail was alarmingly consistent with Blanca's missing persons case. Her family, already anguished, sent over photographs for confirmation. The ring in the pictures matched the one found on the finger. Though this grim confirmation brought a wave of sorrow to Blanca's relatives, formal identification still awaited DNA analysis on November 16th. The family made the bleak journey to Lima to assist with the required DNA tests. Meanwhile, the pressing questions remained: who is responsible for this gruesome act, and how had it been executed? The prevailing theory was that the murder occurred elsewhere and the dismembered remains were subsequently discarded on the beach. Then another shocking discovery unfolded on November 11th at the dry mouth of the riverbed at Tros. Beach police found a decapitated torso that unmistakably belonged to the same dismembered body. Found days before, Chillingly, all internal organs had been surgically removed. It was a good, clean job, and the person who made those cuts had to be someone with some medical knowledge, and one had been studying medicine. This maybe detail only drove investigators to intensify their efforts to unravel this grim mystery. By November 12th, public scrutiny had shifted decisively towards Juan Pablo, largely due to the tweet from Carla. She not only appealed to the community to help find her missing aunt, but she explicitly cited Juan as the last person to see Blanca in Peru. His image as a suspect was now solidified in the eyes of the public. Juan Pablo attempted to deflect these allegations by taking to social media. He said Blanca was a homeless person in Peru, describing himself as a kind-hearted person who offered her money and shelter. He also dismissed their relationship as romantic, saying that Blanca was mentally unstable and that she simply made this up. Carla, however, SW swiftly shut down these claims. An online battle of words ensued. Carla ardently defended her aunt, while Juan Pablo employed every tactic to remove himself of any responsibility. Sensing the growing tension and uncooperative behavior, the public prosecutor's office moved swiftly on November 13th. They announced plans to accelerate the investigation by traveling to Peru. Here they would gather more information and formally summon Juan Pablo for questioning on November 14th. He reported to the Criminal Investigation Department. His stony demeanor continued. He exercised his right to remain silent and declined to cooperate with investigators. He did, however, claim he had no romantic relationship with Blanca. Other people who live close to where Juan and Blanca lived were also interviewed. The landlord of their house confirmed that he and Blanca were involvement in Blanca's disappearance. He was then transported to the main office of the National Directorate of Criminal Investigation and placed under an initial 72-hour detention. Juan Pablo's life was now the main topic of conversation in the national media. He gave conflicting statements during interrogation. He said he wasn't involved with Blanca and wasn't near the area where she disappeared in court. He said the case was hurting his family and his studies. He claimed to be innocent. He expressed wishes for peace for the family of the victim and said that the police should find the real culprit. The case took a dark turn when investigators discovered a series of videos on Juan's TikTok account featuring human organs, specifically a stomach, a pancreas, and a brain, exactly the organs missing from the body found on the beach. What was already a brutal crime now looked like it could also involve organ trafficking. The media also reported statements from a medical professor who called for his expulsion for allegedly trying to trade human organs. Security footage showed Juan Pablo buying chemical cleaning supplies on the day he claimed to be at his other residence away from the crime. His last Google searches were about how to reset a mobile phone, suggesting he was trying to wipe a device and launder it. Another significant element was that Juan was absent from his biology classes on Monday 7th, Tuesday 8th, and Wednesday 9th in November. This coincides with the days on which the last evidence of Blanca's life was found. He is currently in custody while the legal process plays out. I think it's harrowing to believe that one had planned this from the very start, years in the making. King. He wanted to harvest the organs of a woman, and to do so, he started a love affair online years prior, then to get her to eventually leave her country, her friends and her family, all of her safety to be alone with you, where she inevitably went missing. Terrifying, during the initial legal hearings, Blanca's family shared previously unheard information. They said that her demeanor had changed in the final days of communication. Her tone was subdued, as though she was afraid of being overheard. The prosecutor also revealed that on November 3rd, days before she went missing, Blanca had called the airline to ask for a refund on her return ticket to Mexico, but was told it was impossible. She was apparently living on a meager 80 sols a week provided by Juan. Also, the couple didn't see each of daily. Juan was away at university for 2 days a week. During his absence, Blanca was forced to remain hidden in their shared room due to the landlord's one-person occupancy rule. Their living arrangement was clearly not working. The prosecutor also produced new evidence. Bleach and another cleaning agent called Pinol were found in Juan's bathroom. Additionally, the prosecutor highlighted that the discovered body had precise cores, where the face and vital organs were removed. Such surgical precision could only have been executed by someone with medical training. One took the opportunity to defend himself, arguing that he was being targeted due to his medical studies. He insisted he was not in Peru during the days of Blanca's disappearance. As for the unsettling videos, Juan claimed that his TikTok channel was intended solely to help other students with their exams. He portrayed himself as a victim of circumstance as the legal proceedings unfolded. Forensic results confirmed that the body parts discovered indeed belonged to Blanca. Consequently, Juan's charges escalated from disappearance to murder. The prosecution's case continued to solidify. Evidence revealed that Juan had intentionally disabled the GPS on his phone to evade location tracking. But the case was far from closed. The prosecution disclosed that Juan had an accomplice in his best friend, Edison Amir Flores, who owned a cargo motorbike on the evening of November 7th. Both men were seen using the bike to buy 8 large bin bags, 2 packs of cigarettes and biscuits from a local shop near the crime scene. 30 minutes later, Juan informed his landlord that he'd parked a motorbike in the building's hallway the following day. He purchased disinfectants and subsequently stopped attending his university classes. Although Edson admitted to these actions, he denied any knowledge of a murder. But by this point, the case against Juan had amassed more than 60 pieces of corroborating evidence. Faced with overwhelming weights of the facts, Juan decided it was time to come clean. The accused admitted that he was in the city of Hu at the time of the crime. When said he arrived on the 6th of November at the room he shared with Blainer. He rang the doorbell but nobody answered. This was inconsistent with the version given by his friend Juan, emphasized his cooperation with the police from day one. He also complained about the harsh conditions of his detention, including sleeping on the floor next to criminals and not being able to bathe. However, these statements did little to sway the court's opinion. On November 22nd, Juan Pablo was ordered to be held in custody for 9 months as the prime suspect in the murder of Blanca Arellano. In a letter, Juan expressed that he didn't want his family to suffer further or be treated like an animal himself. His defense team filed an appeal for his release, arguing that the evidence against him was insufficient. However, the judge disagreed and that Juan imposed a significant flight risk. On November 23rd, Blanca's family set up an altar to remember her through her niece Carla's Twitter account. They confirmed that the body found on the beach in Hu was that of her aunt. Images of white floral arrangements were visible as Carla urged Peruvian authorities to ensure justice is served in her aunt Blanca's murder. She hopes the trial sets a precedent for punishing those who commit such crimes. Carla also expressed gratitude to the media and the authorities to keep Juan Pablo behind bars. This one has been truly sickening, the brutal behavior and the sheer disregard for human life. Truly thank you for watching. Until next time, stay safe.